this is on transcending pride. Pride can be a block to jump onto the positive frequency. So this is an important one. This is again on transcending pride, and it says, pride is a needless burden and a fragile prop that is not only vulnerable to deflation, but also paradoxically, it attracts attack. It is based on a false presumption that one's intrinsic worth is a definable variable. Self-acceptance results from surrendering self-doubt. All that exists is intrinsically equal by virtue of its creation and the source of that creation itself. Worth or value is based on linear value judgments, all of which are merely arbitrary adjectives. All add-ons are presuppositions, as are social symbols or public accolades, which are ephemeral and transitory. To try to prove or claim self-worth is to lose it. So it goes on from there. And I think what Hawkins just said there really blows out of the water all of this societal bullshit that we've been fed really the last 20 years plus. And so this is about true transformation. This is about going within, connecting with the Lord, and not trying to prove to anybody anything. And so this is a huge release to go from pride to the positive frequency is huge. Now I'm going to go on and read later, and this is about a page later. This is about processing pride. It says, inner peace is the consequence of humility and acceptance of one's karmic inheritance, with its intrinsic gifts as well as limitations. It is very helpful to know that even one's human existence is the consequence of ascent by the will. The Buddha taught, rare is it to be born a human, rarer still is it to have heard of enlightenment, and most rare it is to pursue enlightenment. So we're getting these characteristics of practice, such as humility, that really are the basis of transcendence. And this can be reflected also in the Christian faith. Humility is huge. Humility towards God, towards others, huge. So it is the antidote to pride, and this is one of the ways a person can transcend pride. And in fact, it is a necessity to some extent to have humility for any transcendence, but especially this jump from pride to courage and so forth. And people can make drastic jumps, but it's also, we need to understand something. These are states of consciousness. The overall calibration is going to be based off one's mean of their consciousness levels. If someone is in anger most of the time, but they also have shame and guilt, but they could have some states of reason, right? Maybe they're far and few between. But this overall level, what somebody vibrates as their home frequency, is these combined in an amalgamation to come out with that level of vibration. So the big thing when it comes to mental health is really being able to first identify one's emotion and then process it. Many people are enslaved by their emotions, especially those who are on the force side of the chart here. If you watch them day by day, they will simply harbor these emotions and act out these emotions. And this holds them in a level of consciousness. And so a person can really never transcend being ensnared and enslaved by their emotions. And this is a big issue when it comes to mental health, is people get caught in these cycles of emotion and they keep replaying it over and over and over and over. And when they do this, they hold themselves in contention with others. Notice what I read there. He basically said it was interesting that it actually attracted resistance. And so even though the object is not to do that, the object is so that one can accelerate themselves, it has the result that actually attracts these problems. And that's another reason that one should transcend pride. Pride is a block to many potentialities that could be positive. And without the transcendence, it's virtually impossible to actually, even if one were to achieve that thing that they were going after, or to get that recognition from others, they still would not be able to even enjoy it, because as long as the consciousness itself is in force, then they're not really enjoying it. They may get some frills here and there, but then they're right back into force right after that. So force itself is this perpetuation. One will live in a perpetuation of force. And many of the people in the world, the whole society lives in force. And so we need to understand that there are in each society people who are vibrating at high levels, such as reason, and higher than that. Those keep the lower level frequencies of people intact. It keeps the whole society organized enough to operate without destroying itself. And so this is really important. This is one of the reasons why David Hawkins has a tremendous record of helping those around him, including being government, not ambassadors, but someone who gives their knowledge to help assist in the conflict resolution. And it's one has to really look at the root causes of these problems. Many of the root causes, for instance, in an issue between people and even entire nations, are the result of consciousness and the root of where that consciousness is. If a leader, for instance, has lots of anger and they're very heavily connected to anger, this is going to cause this whole hypnotic rhythm of that force. And the government force, whoever's under that leader, will operate from this anger. And you see this with the atrocities that have happened in the past under those who enacted similar or at least closely related philosophies. So really, ultimately, this is about coming to neutrality. And neutrality is the recognition that one that you're presented with may or may not be right, but no matter what it is, you're okay. You're okay because you are at one with God. So no matter what the situation, no matter what the result of it is, you have this neutrality that is going to be okay. And this is not reached by many people. They may have glimpses of it, but they don't stay there and they don't transcend it. So neutrality is this realization that the outside world could be either or. And even if you don't know what it is, you're still okay. And then from there, it rises up. And there are many different frequencies, by the way, within each of these 100. So for instance, in the 200s, there are tons of different frequencies. These are just a few of them that I'm listing here, but the general outline is that these major frequencies will be calibrated at these levels. And what this means is that, based off where you're at, you can literally calibrate oneself from the muscle testing. And you can also do it with leaders. You can do it with books. You can do it with even objects can be calibrated. The dog's bark, for instance, can be calibrated. There are different frequencies all throughout. Animals, for instance, can also be calibrated. And so it's very interesting, but at the same rate, we need to understand it is a tool. It's not, and I emphasize this every time I talk about this, is that this is not like some gospel paradigm. This is what Hawkins created. It is a consciousness calibration system, and it can be used. He has a whole formula, if you will, books on this whole system. And as someone who used to work in psychiatric, I can tell you that it can be very useful. And even for one's own self, it can be useful. Being able to assess, okay, what is my level of consciousness? What am I vibing right now? And to take an inventory of that and ask oneself, how can I improve, or should I even improve? Maybe I'm great where I'm at. Sometimes just being grateful for where you're at is wonderful. And the other thing that Hawkins made clear was that each person has a role in their level of frequency. So for instance, if you are a 350, or let's say a 360, that is your role. That is a God-given role. It doesn't mean that someone who's in the 700s is more important or even better. It just means the frequency level of your purpose in life given by God is to vibe at that level. And so that is a wonderful thing about it as well, is that there's no comparison where, oh, this person's better. Now, typically, the people at the higher levels will have a higher vibrational influence over the world on that level. But it doesn't mean that they are necessarily doing this worldly thing way better than someone maybe who's in the 200s right? A person in a 200 can be very successful in their right in that area. And so this is a something that when you look at, and you look at it with a knowledge of its limitation too, you can use it so it's effective in one's assessment. And that's why it is so great. And for those of you who don't know, David Hawkins was a trained psychologist, and first he was a psychiatrist, and then he got his doctorate degree in psychology. And so he knows a lot, or he knew, I should say, a lot about true psychology, not just, let me make this up and put it out there. He was a genius. Hawkins was a genius. And he noticed these patterns as he was running his psychiatric practice. And he himself had experiences, these breakthroughs one of them was during his childhood, where he almost died in a snow thing. He was in like the snow, covered by snow, and he almost died. And so, but he had this experience, and he came to this light, this breakthrough happened at that point. And so he talks about this kind of this near-death experience that he went through, and then also later in life meditating 2 hours a day in his practice. And so it's well-founded material, and it is something that one can use. I've found it very helpful when just diagnosing where one may lie on the spectrum. And it's great to achieve higher levels. And one of the great things about studying it is that with the knowledge, it can be easier to transcend levels because one knows exactly where they're at, or at least has some wherewithal as to where they could be, and then one can transcend it. So, I just want to put this intention out there before I get off of here, is that let's pray for those around us to come to the light. And I think the first step here is crossing over. And then once one is crossed over, it doesn't matter as much as to what they're doing, right? But those who are in force are the opposing people. They tend to create more strife in the world. Now, with that said, God can still use these people for good. That is possible. He can still use them for good and allow them to do good things, but it's more of an oppositional force. And so it doesn't tend towards life. If these people were in charge, everything would go to hell. And so it really is the higher level vibrations that ultimately save everybody. And the more people that exist in the higher level frequencies, the better life gets. The more prosperous things are, the healthier society is, the more high vibrational it is. Life just gets better and better. Okay, y'all. God bless you wherever you are. I hope the Lord is with you today. May you be at peace and love. Take care. I'll see you next time.